Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's June 27th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And I did want to say I'm feeling better today. Um, just to kind of give you a heads up in case, make sure this never happens to you. But I had some new people come in to do some cleaning in the office here today, and they used something. Uh, One of my drains was a little slow, and they used something in my drain, and I guess it counteracted with something that the previous people had put in there, and together they didn't. They had some kind of chemical reaction. But anyway, um, I was sitting here breathing that stuff in, and noticed that before I noticed it, it was already too late, and um, I was having some sinus issues and some throat issues and headache, and um, I just didn't realize how bad it was till I really got out of here, and it kind of hit me. But yeah, I breathed in some chemicals from a chemical reaction between them mixing something that they shouldn't have, and it just wasn't a good day for me. But I feel a lot better today. We aired the place out and got it corrected, and today I'm feeling better. So my throat's still just a little scratchy from breathing that stuff, but other than that, I'm pretty much back to 100%. So apologize, but I almost didn't do the chart lesson yesterday, but it was such an important day. I just felt like I really needed to get it done. So I tried to get through it as quickly as I can, but I really wasn't feeling very good yesterday. So, but anyway, be careful if you're mixing chemicals. I mean, there was no way they could know. I wanted to blame the new cleaning people, but they had no way of knowing, what the other people had done. So, um, but it was a combination, turns out, of mixing two different chemicals, and needless to say, it wasn't good. But anyway, I don't want to waste a bunch of time on that. Let's talk about the trades and get through today. Uh, it really looked like we were going to have a trading range day, and we really did have a range day until here. Really, the sell-off started up here. And when the news came out, actually, there wasn't really a news item, but the Fed speaker spoke today, and evidently he said something that probably that could have contributed to this, because this is right when it happened, right after he started speaking. And you can see that's a pretty strong sell-off. But after this first leg down, once we started going lower, you'd probably figure we'd get you'd probably want to look for a second leg. And here's your first leg. And so once we started heading lower, you would suspect that we'd probably get a second leg. You would also probably want to measure this from here to here, and then look for another move down there. And you really got the same kind of location there. We ended up going further, and this channel ended up playing out, this two-tiered channel. Then we had a break and a move to a new low, and then that really pretty much took us into the close. So, but right in here, you just wanted to probably stay out. This wasn't the same thing as an FOMC announcement, but when the chair of the FOMC is speaking, you still better pay attention, because you might get a big sell-off, or you might get some volatility. I wouldn't really call this huge volatility. I just think it just got the market to moving, because we didn't get those crazy swings or anything. It just really got the market to continue moving. So it's a little different than your typical FOMC announcement where the market goes nuts and you want to be flat. But I'd still be flat in here. I'd at least be careful. So, and up until this point, it was a range day. Early on, I was looking at this channel. Um, it looks valid, but it never gets confirmed, and it really doesn't come into play. So I left it on there just to show it to you. You can see those first two swings. The next swing didn't get there, and the next swing went right on through. So prices did come back and test it before they went higher, and it did look like we were trying to make a new low and then bounce. But it just didn't work out. We just continued to go lower. And like I said, you probably would have wanted to be flat right in here. But I'm going to take these off because they just kind of clutter it up and confuse you. But you can see the what I was looking at. And I was looking at this shorter term trend line right here. And I do believe there is a little shorter term channel there. You can see it. Prices fit in there pretty well. We had a little bit of an overshoot right here. but even if you bring them down, they still fit okay. So it doesn't matter where you put it. This channel looks valid. And the fact that we didn't get a retest was just because the range was the bigger play. And that's pretty common to see that happen. So on a channel like this, you get a break and you don't really get a retest because the range takes precedence. And then you notice we tested it a few times up here, went down, and you can see we got the little breakout pullback short. There's not really a good short setup here. It did push through and come back and test that previous support resistance and then give you a big bearish bar, but you wouldn't have been able to get in that. It just closed on one side, opened on the other, and just kept going. And I doubt you'd have got filled on any of that. What you would have wanted to do was maybe when it broke lower here, if you could get in back up here where you were supposed to, maybe try to get in, but I just don't think it would have worked. I just think you had to watch that go, because that was right at the 12 o'clock and you were probably flat. If you weren't and you were still short from up here and you hung on, well, then I would be looking for that measured move, and I probably would have exited right in there. I'm sorry I had an interruption there, but I can't even remember where we were at. We were looking for the measured move down, I think. But if you'd have exited on either one of those right before the measured move, you'd have got out within a point or so of the low. And then it bounced, and you got another chance to get back in here. You treat this was actually a second entry. Actually, it's not a second entry, but it's a failed break higher. It's a second opportunity to go short. You got a lower high here, but it's right back into the support resistance, and it's more of a neutral bar. So, or otherwise you could have entered there. The better entry would have been here on your failed second entry long, but that's after 2 o'clock, so I didn't mark it. But let me back up, talk about the trades, and we'll wrap it up for the day. But a little more straightforward today than what we have been having. Yesterday was really a tough day. I got a lot of emails yesterday and a lot of comments in the video that a lot of people had a hard day, and it really was, because it just reversed on a dime, and there were a lot of fake outs and failed failures and things like that. It just was an unusual day. So if you struggled, don't beat yourself up about it. But let's talk about the trades today. Actually, I did. The one trader that did say that he had a really bad day that I talked about in the video yesterday contacted me today, and he had a really good day today. And so I've been there. I know how that feels. And so for you traders, when you have a bad day, we've all been there. And you get a little down and dejected, and but you study those trades diligently, study that chart diligently, figure out how you could have avoided it, and where you made your mistakes, and learn from it, and come back fresh tomorrow and start over, and hopefully you have a better day. And that's generally what happens. So, generally, if you have a couple of losses in a row, at the very least, get up and go take a 15 or 20 minute break. Go walk around the block. Go walk your dog. Go take a coffee break. Whatever you like to do, just get away from it for a minute and completely take your mind off of it, and then come back and sit down. You'd be shocked at how clear it looks after you take a break. And if you just keep trading, you get flustered and you make mistakes, and you end up just losing a lot of money. So anyway, if you have a couple of losses in a row, I would highly suggest that you take a break. So, but let's talk about the trade. The first trade I saw was here. This is another one that would have looked really good if this would have been after 7 o'clock. I mean, that's a very tempting trade, and it would have failed on you. And but since it happened before 7 o'clock, it set up perfect for the 7 o'clock when you come in to be able to take the failure. And so I like, you got a new high, first entry, pull back, second entry, and that's two measured legs down. And you'd figure that it'd probably try a retest, but it doesn't. It just turns back down. So, timing was everything on this one. And normally I would have told you to skip this one, but because it is a failed second entry long and a trap, I like that one. You figure it's probably just going to be a range day, and we're going to head back down here and test the lows. And you actually get a reversal right here. Notice the new high, and so this is like it's a lower high. Makes it look like a reversal pattern now. Another fairly bearish bar. It's pretty close to this low, but with the main low being down here, and this being a push through the EMA and a pullback and a retest of that shorter term trend line and EMA, I like that one. And you figure we're probably coming to test this. And we do actually push lower here. At that point, you really got one leg down and then the second leg down. And I didn't talk about that, but you got this leg. And then so you'd be looking for a measured move. And you see we didn't quite get that, but we did get the new low here. And you would have had a trend line right here too. And that's your first break. And then another leg down to retest. And then we reversed. So hope that's clear. But I like those two. And of course, you don't want to do anything down here to the short side. If anything, you want to go long. And you had to be careful going long because of this trend line. So you need a reversal pattern. There's actually notice the new low and then the first entry, second entry. So there's really a reversal pattern there. The only reason I didn't like this one is because you got one bar, then you get a double top matching high, and then you get a third one, and same thing, a double top matching high. Now you could have maybe decided to go longer here when it went lower and then turned up. So if you saw that, then I'm okay with it. And that really confirmed, this one really confirmed the trend line. You could have really argued even for this one to be green because that is a reversal pattern. But after yesterday, I'll be honest with you, I'd be a little leery of that one because it's not a perfect reversal pattern, but it's still there. This would be the more, and this one you really could even argue for it to be blue. I really wanted to leave it green or leave it off, but you could argue for that to be blue. You would have probably had to ride this pullback back, but then it turns down again, and now you got a double test of this, and so now I feel a whole lot more comfortable going long there. And you notice all these inside bars, we're just kind of stacking up here, but when it turns down and turns back up there, now I feel pretty confident taking that one. It's really close to this high, so you might let it break higher and then drop a limit order back where you would have gone long above that one, and that ensures you got plenty of room. You still had enough room to get out, but we got exactly 5 ticks, and that's why I always tell you don't go for that extra tick, especially on range days, because a lot of times you only get just enough to get out, and that's the reason we go that's the reason we've got this down to a science, and so that's why we go for 4 ticks and not 5 or 6 or 7 or 3. 4 is the magic number, and so that's why we go for it. And if this is a range day, you know this is where you're wanting to get long here. Once you kind of get back up into this middle part, it gets iffy. You're better off to just stay out. We do get a little failed break lower and then another turn up, but that's just a first entry, and I really would have expected this to take off higher by now, so I didn't like that one. It turned out to be a great trade, but and it is the first break of this is like a little spiking channel working up, heading back to the other side. But again, I just don't think this is your signal bar and it's too bearish. And then by the time you get this one, you got to go long way up here. So I just think you're better. If this would have turned down here and then turned or broke lower and then went out, yes, maybe. But the way it's set up there, I think you got to skip that one. Then of course you start going sideways up here. You can't get above the resistance, and you get that little break higher, and you got a little 2-tick bar way away from the EMA. You've already had your break of this channel and a new high. You know this is the overnight resistance. That's a very low risk entry, and if you take that, you get in at the very high of the day. You may not have got anything but a scalp out of this, but it comes back and gives another test up. Now you got a double test of this level, and this is really a double test of this level. So I like them both. And again, it's not a very big bar, fairly bearish. It might have been hard to catch that one, but if you catch that one, you might get this ride down. But notice if you draw that trend line off those first two swings, this is we pushed on through the EMA, we pushed out the bottom of this, we pulled back, we test it. I like that one. It's a breakout pullback short, but you got to be careful with those. You generally want to see a double test, but because this is a reversal pattern and a failed second entry long, and it confirms the trend line as well, I like that one. And that's the only reason. Otherwise, I'd probably either make that one green or skip it. But and that thing takes off. So if you catch this and you want to ride through all the news and all that, you might be able to ride this down for 2 legs. But I'll be honest with you, I'm going to look to exit this thing right here. You're going to get 4 or 5 points right there, and you can get out right down here. And it does bounce. Nothing that would probably take you out if your stop's way back here, but you know, you do have to give back a couple of points there. And there's not really another good entry to take it lower. This is during that news hour, so you're probably looking to get out right there before the news goes off or is announced. So that's why I like exiting there. And if you're brave enough to ride through that, nice job. But you know, next time you'll probably get stopped out and give all your money back. But anyway, if you held on, you knew where your 2 measured moves were. They're right in here, so I would have looked to exit right in here before it bounced. It's tempting to go short right here. You got a little double top, and it's really a double test of that bar right there. But look how it just stacks up, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all dojis. And then notice it pushes out, and it comes back and retests it, and then goes low. But it's still a doji right there, and I just think you're better off to stay out, even though there are some reasons to get in there. It's really risky, especially after a day like yesterday. So it turns out we just start going sideways right here. There is a low here, and the reason I'm not crazy about going long right in here, even though you got a reversal pattern and a failed second entry short and a little failed break lower, this is that time when you might catch the low of the day. But this is a strong trend. So, you know, you don't want to be fishing for bottoms here. You know, if you did that yesterday, which a bunch of you did, you got burned, you know, and so you can't be fishing for bottoms. So the only reason I made this one green is because we got a failed break lower, and you got a reversal pattern. Notice your first entry short, and then you push through the EMA, second entry short, and it instantly turns and goes higher. There's not a lot of room before this high, but this is really the high you're shooting for, and there is enough room to get out there. If you're looking at that, you can see that up there. That's the one you got to be worried about, that last high. And so you got enough room there, even though I like to put my line where the closes are. It's more important really, but you just want to be out. So you have to consider that too, but this is the real key right here. But it just pushes on through. It's because they probably had a lot of people trapped, and a lot of these shorts are all exiting now. And notice what happens. You run up here and you start going sideways, and you get that little tick higher, and it turns and goes right out the other side, a good bit away from the EMA, and you know you're probably going to come back and test that breakout area. Even if you're going to go higher, you're going to come back and test that. So I like trying to ride that back, and you get a lower high here, but it's right back into, it's not a very good signal bar. In fact, it's a doji. It's a horrible signal bar, and then you're right back into the support resistance, so it may bounce there. It doesn't. This is where you'd probably think to enter, or this is where you'd want to enter if you're going to enter this. And notice how you got pull back first entry and pull back. That's your reversal, and it's kind of a repeat of this up here. So that would have been the place to enter. And notice how you would have had a nice trade there. But it's late in the day, and it's after 2 o'clock, so I didn't mark it. But just because it is a good trade, I'll go ahead and mark it. So you can just remind yourself if you want to look at it some more. But yeah, not a bad trading day. What looked like was going to be a range day ends up with a big sell-off. I did get somebody that contacted me and we're going long right here, and somehow he had his trend line drawn a little different. I think he had his trend line drawn like this. And if you do that, it does look like a bounce right there. But try to make that trend line fit on the other side. It just doesn't fit really well. Um, and so it doesn't hold prices. Look how mine's holding prices on both sides except for that break right there. That's your trend line, and generally it's going to be off, especially these major highs and lows. It's generally going to be off the high or the low of the day, and then I like to catch the closes after that. And notice how it gapped over right there. It closed and then opened on the other side. It did back up and fill that little gap between the two bars, but that tells you, you'll see, you know, you got your trend line in the right place when you see those little jumps and gaps like that. And a lot of times it won't be able to back up and fill it either. It just leaves a little gap, but it just closes on one bar, opens on the other, and keeps going, like right here. Notice how there's no overlap between those two bars. There's probably some kind of major, let's just drag that down there and see if we go back into yesterday and find nothing yesterday. But a lot of times you'll find there's some kind of support resistance or some kind of important level, the price level there, when it does that. But anyway, not a lot of trades today, but uh, you had a chance to really make some easy trades early this morning. These were all fairly straightforward. It's a range, you know, we're in a range. And when you're in a range, you go short off the highs and long off the lows and be careful in the middle. Once we started going down here, you know, even though they weren't great setups, if you'd have went short right off the key entry points, you'd have had two more great trades. So it's all about where you enter more than anything, and the better the pattern. You know, if you know, we also want to see that one of the patterns we look for. We like to see the right kind of signal bar, but that key entry point is critical to it. I mean, that's the key to everything. And you know, you don't even have to be perfect when you find those key entry points. Look, once we started going higher here, if you'd have just bought any of those bounces off the trend line, even the first break, you would have made money coming down. If you'd have sold any of those touches of the key entry point, you'd have made money. So same thing going up here. The only one that wouldn't would have been here, and of course by that time, you know, you're going sideways and you probably know better than to go long right there. Plus the overall trend is still down. We're going, this is the first break of a huge move down with two big measured legs plus some, so you know you're going to probably retest this low, which we do. So that's not surprising at all, even if you were playing the range. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.